Okay, so welcome everyone to the Art of Detox and Empowered Living. Thank you for your time to open yourself for new information, new sharings, new inspirations. And today I have a very special gift, and I feel very honored to have Dorit here today, who has been a true pioneer in the fields of raw food nutrition and detoxing and empowerment and health and wellness. And I read her bio and it's quite impressive. So Dorit, first of all, thank you so much for being here, for devoting your precious time out of the busy schedule to share your gift here tonight, or this afternoon for you. And yeah, let's get started. Let's start with, what got you to where you are now, from, being a little girl in Israel and all the health challenges you face. What brought you to here right now? We could share a story with us.
First of all, Sabina, thank you so much. And I congratulate you so much on the work that you are doing with people who so need you. So thank you so much. So when I was a child, a wee little thing, I would only eat fruits. I refused to eat anything else. And I was very strong about that. It wasn't up for arguments. And fortunately for me, I came from a very fruit-centric family. So there was always a ton of fruits. But there was also what I call slaughterhouse cuisine that went along with it. So, but I would only eat the fruit part. And I remember very clearly, I don't have a lot of memories of my childhood, but the ones I have are extremely vivid. And I particularly remember that we had this garden at the back of the house, and it was a vegetable garden and a fruit garden. So we grew a lot of tomatoes and cucumbers and things like that. I remember coming home from school and being fed either there was a glass in the fridge with water and salt, and in it was dipped cucumbers that had just been picked from the garden. So I remember being very hot in the summertime and taking this refreshing cucumber and just eating it. And that to me was my meal. And I remember also going into the garden and picking the tomatoes and just eating them directly from the vine. And just in ecstasy, true ecstasy, until I got to the dinner table. And then the battles began. And I became very devious. I learned to be a devious child in that I learned to cut up all the stuff that were put on my plate. And then I cut that very tiny, 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 so it looked like I had eaten it. And I push it to the sides of the plate. So in the center of the plate was empty. Just only by cutting it up small, I was able to do that. And then eventually the adults found out my game and did not like it. So then I would throw it under the table, the food under the table. And then when everybody was gone, I would rush underneath there and pick everything up and then throw it outside. So this went on for quite a while. And I became very devious. And that's when I began to realize that when we eat according to our instincts, when we eat according to our intuition, and food in general was a power struggle. That's when I realized it. And that we do not eat according to the laws of nature, but according to what we're told we need. And then I looked around and I saw all the other animals, a lot of animals, just eating whatever they want willy-nilly, and nobody was saying to them, no, 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 you need to be eating dairy. No, you need to be eating this. No, nobody was saying anything to them. In fact, they were then killing the animal and eating it for their nourishment. And I thought, this is the weirdest thing. But the animals loved what I loved, the animals that were being killed. So I thought it was the strangest thing. So I started having a very strong, opinionated, a little child, very opinionated criticism of adults. And I was very critical of adults. I thought they didn't have any common sense. I thought they were very, they behaved like a cult. And I didn't know the word cult at the time, but that was my impression, that their behavior was not according to anything that made sense, but they all did the same thing at the same time. In other words, we were told when to celebrate, what to celebrate, how to celebrate. And people just went along with it as if it were supposed to be the norm. So I just kept eating what I wanted to eat, despite what everybody else was upset about that I wasn't. And this all kept going on until I was forcefully inoculated, held down, literally held down by adults. And I still remembered the trauma to today. It was I was quite traumatized by it, held down and forcefully inoculated. And I became violently sick. Now, Sabine, I must tell you that until that moment, I had never been sick. All my peers had been sick in school, all the school children, everybody in my family sick. I had never been sick, ever. I became violently sick when I was forcefully inoculated and ended up in the hospital. In the hospital, I felt I was being punished. I was terrified of that place. There were women dying around me and moans and groans. And I remember my father walking away, and I thought, what did I do? I'm being punished. And then the next day, the doctors, the nurses came and were trying to force feeding me all the stuff that I wouldn't eat. And this went on for I don't know, because I was too small. I didn't do time, and I still in many degrees don't do time. And I thought I was being punished for eating the way I did. And finally, one day, they brought me some soup because they tried to get me to eat everything, and I wouldn't eat it except for the fruit. And they kept saying, you can't just eat fruit. You know, you're going to be very sick, and that's why you're here. And I said, no, I was here because somebody forcefully inoculated me. You know, and I didn't use the word inoculate because it was too big a word at the time, but I remember said, because of what you all did to me. And you held me down and gave me something. And then finally, they made me some vegetable soup, and I was so thirsty that I drank it. And so they found a way to get me to eat their food. And it started out with soups. And that started my demise. And I was a very sick teenager. I was always sick until I even went macrobiotics, and I was violently sick. I did so many different things, but still would not eat the animals at all. And they told me that because I wasn't eating that stuff, and I had to eat eggs. Now, eggs was the most disgusting, slimy, horrible thing that you could show me. And plus, even though I had chickens running around the yard, and I saw that these eggs belonged to the chicken. And then the next thing I know, a little chick came out of it. So I couldn't understand why we were doing that. So my opinion of adults was very low. And I did not want to take my place amongst the adults at all in the world. And I was sick for a long time. I lived in 8 different countries. And in every country I went, I found most beautiful gems called fruits, that each region had their own, you know, particular ones that they really liked. And I was terrified because I thought I'd be punished if I ate only fruit again. And I didn't want to be inoculated again. But I was for polio this time. And I remember this one was with a spoon. And I remember as the spoon was coming towards my mouth, it looked like the spoon was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I thought, oh, it won't fit in, so they can't force it, but they did. And I got violently sick again. And to think that the adults didn't put 2 and 2 together, I immediately saw why. And this went on and on and on and on and on until I was an adult, and then I was traveling on my own. And fortunately, I don't know if you've been in Israel, but Israel has a lot of juices and juice bars. And they're on the street, you have these push carts where people juice. And I started juicing a lot, and I would go where this gelato bar on Saturday nights. We never had bars at the time in Israel with alcohol, thank God. And now they do because of the tourists, and now also the citizens love it too now. But at the time we didn't. And the gelato bar had these amazing smoothies and juices. And so I just love them. So when I was on my own, bought a juice and I started juicing. And my best friend in Israel still tells me to the day that she remembers my parties, that all my parties had watermelon juice and pineapple juice, and people loved coming to my parties because they got to taste all this stuff because I was experimenting on them. And then I almost died. I was violently sick. I was told that I had to eat dairy. So I started eating this thing called leben, which is almost like yogurt, but not quite. And I got violently sick and almost died. And so the doctor, fortunately, at the time, the doctors in Israel were very, very attuned to nutrition. And he said he's going to put me on a rotation diet. So 2 weeks on, 3 weeks off, something like that. After the first rotation, and he put me back on the leben, I got violently sick again and almost died. He said, we can't even do 3 rotations. You won't make it through. He says, you can never eat anything that looks, smells, or tastes like dairy for the rest of your life. Hallelujah. I was thrilled. I was thrilled because although I did love the leben and even had started eating shemenet, I didn't like cheese. I didn't like any of the, I refused to touch milk. I mean, milk to me looked the most disgusting thing ever. So my mother was like, but what am I going to feed you? Now, at the time, and even now, at the time, though, nobody in Israel ever said I'm vegetarian because our national meals were all vegetarian or vegan. And so I said, well, our national meals, I'll just keep eating our own food, the food that we're supposed to, that's what we're well known for. And so people left me alone then. But then I started traveling and I went to France, of all places, to live and to study. And boy, they didn't understand how to make anything at all without creme fraiche or without, butter. And I got violently sick in France again. And I remember loving France, but hating the food. And everybody would say, you hate the food in France? And I said, yes, it's the worst. And I was violently sick. So I always saw the connection between how I felt each day and what I ate. But because I was in a society which did not accept it, and I never said I've never to today, I never used the words I was vegan. I've never said that because this is just who I am. This is who I am. I don't eat this stuff. And I didn't understand why I need to declare myself to be anything or anyone. I don't like titles. I don't like being called anything. It's enough just being called a name. So, and I studied a lot the French philosophers, and I love them. I fell in love with them, and they just seem to really, just open my heart and open me up to this entire world where you could be just you. And to today, what I notice and what I see is people forcing themselves to be raw vegan and try to fit into a mold, to call themselves certain things, and then they do not succeed at all because they have no sense of self. We cannot become what we are not. What we need to do, and this is what I learned, we have to go back to the source of who we are, which is part of nature. We have to live according to the rhythms of nature, not just the seasons, but the rhythms of nature, which means we need to embrace life and we need to embrace death, because that's part of living with the rhythms of life. And I started studying with Thich Nhat Hanh. I was very fortunate. I was trained in mindfulness by him. When I came to the United States, I studied with Deepak Chopra and started teaching for him as well. And I started, taking what worked for me and what did not work for me. So I studied Ayurveda, but that did not work for me. But certain principles of Ayurveda did, such as seasonal eating and things like that, and respecting the earth. But then I studied with these Japanese farmers. And I still am a member of this Japanese society here called the MOA Wellness Center, and they have a farm. And they taught me the living soil. In fact, there's a film I highly recommend if you can find it called Living Soil, which they showed me. And I was stunned to find that there was an entire life under the earth, that if you look in the soil, there's an entire life that's feeding us, that's working on our behalf, that's toiling on our behalf. And we don't even realize it. And then we'll go and we'll take a mango and we'll just eat it willy-nilly like that, mindlessly. when so much life has been put into this mango to give it to us. People understand that the sun, is part of nature, and that's something that, the pineapple, they can see the sun in the pineapple, but they don't see the moon and the stars in it. And that's part of what cooks it. I think all food is cooked. The sun, the moon, and the stars cook our food all the time. And it cooks it just exactly how we need it. And we don't have to destroy it anymore. And so I've come to the conclusion now that the only thing that we need to do in this life is to be ourselves. That's what we came here for. I think we're part of a jigsaw puzzle. As a child, I loved jigsaw puzzles. Jigsaw puzzles was the only thing that I really game of my childhood that I loved. I liked Scrabble too because I love to spell, but jigsaw puzzles. And if you notice, Sabina, that if you put together a jigsaw puzzle and you're missing just one piece, how do you feel? Just one piece. And when you find that one piece, the rejoicing, because you realize that it's not complete. You're not completed until you have that one piece. And I feel that way about every single human. When humans do not show up for themselves as themselves, all of us suffer, and we all feel something is missing in our lives. That's because we didn't all show up as ourselves. And we didn't find out who we are because we've been programmed to just be copycats of each other. Eat the same thing, celebrate the same thing, wear the same thing, look the same way, sound the same way. And we're not. We're unique, incredible creatures that have the power of life within us and the power to bloom and grow. The same power that opens the rose, we have that power to open us up to.
That's beautiful. I love this metaphor, and everything you shared with us actually deeply resonates. It's actually almost feels like it's part of my journey as well. And that shows again how much we are connected. And I love you mentioned the rhythm of life, and to be ourselves, and more like an intuitive eating than being attached to a certain label, And I really believe this journey we're on is about disidentifying with the labels, with all the stuff that we've been programmed along the way to identify with. So it's really the journey of letting go and releasing and getting back to source, to our true essence. And I love you shared it's about, being the rose, being that beautiful flower. And we're here to, blossom and to open our petals and to shine in our exquisite beauty and to be that beautiful flower that we are meant to be and to be admired, to be celebrated. So it's a blossoming process. So it's so beautiful that everything you shared with me is just going deep into the heart. So thank you. And I actually want to open it up for some questions for Dorit. Any questions, because she has been on this path for a very long time, and she also has worked with incredible people such as Serena Williams. She was a personal chef to her, and any other celebrities. It's not just she's living it, she's actually teaching it to others, especially those who have an influence in this world. That then creates a ripple effect, so it's going really far. So let's open up for questions. We have Millie and Brian. Do you have any questions for the raw food journey, or in general, just living an empowered life and sharing your gift? Brian, okay, so I unmute you.
Okay. Hi. Hello, Dorit. Nice to meet you. I am late to class. I apologize. Can you guys hear me well enough?
Yes, you can speak up a little bit.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, this doesn't have a microphone on it. So yeah, I first became acquainted with Dorit because she was in a movie, a documentary about live food cooking or live food preparing that I think is still on YouTube. And the person in that video that motivated me was two people, David Wolf and David Jubb. Personal friends with David Jubb, so I was eating a live food diet for about 17, 18 years. I have had cutbacks to cook food because of something we like to call culture. My parents are West Indian. I do like a good roti. I like the Indian food. And I've, they say, you're eating all this raw food, but you guys, you're selling out. You forgot your culture and your tradition. And sometimes that's my last bastion. Now, I am a French fry addict. So every probably every 2 months or 3 months, I'll have some French fries. But other than that, I am all raw fruit. I like fasting. And I was just wondering how you felt about the cultural aspect of things. Why people, you go into a room and everybody's just set up for you to eat, to fail. You go in a room, everybody's eating. Hey, you want these chips? You're constantly defending yourself. And so that's my only dilemma, which I don't have a problem with. I'm used to saying no, but sometimes it wears on you.
So, Brian, what I found is that eating has become an addiction. It's an addictive habit. And when you're around addicts, addicts want you to try their drugs. Because if you are not on the drugs with them, they start to question themselves. And so you become a threat to them. The important thing, Brian, is to see yourself and develop yourself beyond raw foods, beyond what you eat. When you no longer define yourself by what you eat, but by who you are, you just eat this way without even thinking or calling it a name or labeling it. And you don't even see what other people are eating anymore. You do not. So it used to be that I would walk past into a restaurant with friends or whatever, and I would smell the most disgusting smells, toxic, of rotting flesh, and also garlic and onions. The smell of onions and garlic cooking, I find very toxic. When I go to the gym, I can smell garlic reeking off of people. Literally, it smells so toxic. And it used to bother me until one day I decided I'm going to surrender. I'm going to practice surrendering. I tell you, I was very, very fortunate to be trained by Thich Nhat Hanh. And I'm just going to surrender the process. I'm going to surrender to the fact that I live in a toxic world where toxicity reigns, where toxicity makes a lot of money, and where illness is actually something that is endorsed by the majority of people. Not because it was intuitively so for them, but because they've been conditioned to think so. So I find when I surrender to that, it no longer bothers me. Can you believe that? I can still smell that toxic smell, and it no longer turns me off. And nobody in my life has ever said to me, come and eat this again. Ever since I decided one day, I'm taking my life back from you adults. I refuse to do this. I am, going my own path. You go your path. I bless you all. You're fine. You don't hear me telling you, eat this, eat that. Don't tell me, eat this, eat that. If you're busy enough living your life, you will not care about what I'm doing with mine.
Okay, I'm glad you answered that because I don't have a problem with people. I have a problem with my own desires and my desire for tradition, culture. I love my culture, but there's no one
But
anymore.
Brian, what is it? What is culture?
Well, culture is fermentation. Or culture is also people that are sick.
No, but what is culture? What does culture mean to you?
Culture means connecting to family and past, people, my lineage, and those sorts of things. And so the festivity of it, the connection of it, there's that component. And so that's not a problem. But I do on my own because it's on my own that when I want a roti, I don't need, I just the memory of culture, the memory, the sense, the pride of where I'm from. Now, where I'm going. So what you told me that I just learned is where I'm going is I have to create sort of an Eden. I have to reorganize my own thinking and my own paradigm because some of my paradigm is stuck in my past.
A
And
lot of it. A lot of it.
well, if I'm doing it 3 times a year, I don't think it's that much, but
But you have cravings. You have cravings and you want to embrace it, correct? You want
right, but
to
it's
be a
not a
part of
lot.
it.
But it's not a lot. It's very little. As a matter of fact, I've gone years 100%. So I wouldn't say it's a lot, but I do go back to it because I do reminisce on it.
Then embrace it. Then embrace going back to it. Embrace the roti. Say thank you to the roti.
But my question wasn't that I had a problem. I was just asking how you told me, you answered it though, how you dealt with it. So now I understand though, what I've gotten from it is that it's just another level to build. It's just another level to build, because anybody who's been into anything will throw back to the past. It's almost automatic.
No, only when you're trained to do that. We have been trained and conditioned to live according to the past.
I'm not talking about food.
I'm talking about your culture. I'm talking about anything, everything, history, even. That we're told that, you know, we have to look at history, otherwise we will get burnt again. Very true, yes. But most of us, I mean, holidays. What are we celebrating when we celebrate holidays?
I don't celebrate holidays.
No, but I'm talking about human. I'm talking about the human culture.
Humans, I guess something they've been told.
No, but there's something from the past that they're always celebrating.
Yeah,
it's always past. So instead of celebrating the present moment, we're always celebrating the past. We are constantly being driven back to the past. You look at any movie, every movie, almost every movie is built on the past, something from the past as well, and embracing something from the past. We're told that you're a certain background. Mm-hmm. What if that's not true? What if your background is simply human? I mean, does an elephant say to itself, now listen, I have all these elephants that lived here and walked here millions of years ago. I need to do the exact same thing. No, they're conditioned in their own life to eat certain things and to go, and they don't question it. And they just go about their daily business, and they don't look over there and say, that lion just had a kill. Oh my gosh, it smells good. Maybe I should go over there and try that.
Yeah, they're unfortunately for their G pool that they can't do that. But I like the fact that we're having this conversation, because we as humans can adapt to higher degrees. That's why we need to have these conversations. It's important for connection on this level. My situation, what I was trying to explain, is on the levels that I've come from. So this is helping me because I'm seeing it from a level where I could develop myself to see that. And I can now look forward to see a paradigm that's higher than the one I've prevented, because there is no evolution. It's only the adaptation that you create for yourself. And when you can create that for yourself, there's no past. You're only looking towards a powerful, productive, and beautiful future that creates, I want to say perfection, because there is no perfection, but you're perfecting, not perfection. Perfection is not a real thing, but perfecting upon what is God created as perfect is ideal. And we can only, there are no mistakes, or we can go further than we've gone. And we can definitely look at things with, I can walk into a restaurant, I don't have a problem with that. I can look at cooked food and say no. I'm around it all the time. But for my own self, I'm learning to let go of my own once in a blue moon, because I know people that are like 100% for 15, 20 years. That's where I want to be. I have a friend who's 90 years old who has been eating raw since 73. And he's one of those people I admire. So for me, in my traditional sense, okay, I'm sorry, your question.
No, I didn't say anything. Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, really, it's all it is. It's sort of my own competitive level, because when I work out, I don't have any cravings. I'm physically, for 51 years old, I'm in great shape. I've proceeded, but you know, I go further and further. But you know, the times that I sit back and I think it could be boredom. I think it could be
okay, and what causes boredom? You just hit it. What causes boredom? You're getting there right now.
Boredom is it. I mean, boredom just causes
boredom. But what causes boredom? What's behind boredom?
Doing nothing. Empty space.
It's lack of self-knowledge. You're not in the present moment. That's what causes boredom. You talked about the past first, and then you talked about the future, but you never said you want to be in the present moment. Might I invite you, Brian, to let go of the past, let go of future, and just live in the present moment. When we live in the present moment, there is no mind. The mind does not exist in the present moment. The mind exists in the past, and the mind exists in the future. If you spend your time learning your biology, having a deeply intimate knowledge and relationship with your biology, that brings you into the present moment. That's what will bring you there. So let me give you an example. There are people here's another label, raw food movement.
I don't like that label.
Well, I don't like any labels, but we need some. So for right now, I'm just going to use people in the raw food movement who are right now, as we're speaking right now, really frightened, terribly so, and being traumatized because somebody who was supposedly a raw food influencer just died this week, and they are just going to bats over this. But that's living and dying is part of the cycle of life. Mm-hmm. And on to embrace the seasons of our life, we will never live in the present moment. I don't, people are trying to think, why did she die? Is it because of the cholera? Is it because she had cancer before? Is it because her immune system was low? No, because that's part of her soul's journey here. We came here, each and every one of us, to be a part of a very generous and very giving universe and a very loving universe. Mm-hmm. Until we can be in the present moment, we will be terrified of death. Terrified. And that terror of death is what drive a lot of people into the raw food community. And so when somebody suddenly has the nerve to leave their body and return to the spirit world, people get really angry and they want answers and they want it now. Mm-hmm. And the raw food movement is a sham. But they didn't think about the fact that that was a soul living in a human body. And at some point, we have to graduate from here. She graduated earlier than probably most people would have expected her to. And she's now in the spirit world from when she came in the first place. Isn't it interesting? When we come here as babies, when a baby is born, people celebrate. But that baby has just left the spirit world and come into a denser plane, the earth plane. So shouldn't we just be as upset and angry then that this baby came in if we're also upset and angry when they leave this dense plane and go back into the higher plane of the spirit world? How comes one is acceptable and the other is not? Right. That's why I don't go to funerals and I don't go to bar mitzvahs and I don't go to birthday parties and I don't go to any of that stuff because it's all living in the past and people do not live in the present. I invite you today to just begin to experiment with living the present moment. What does that mean? Be okay with whatever comes up for you. If you have a craving for French fries, for chips, for roti, allow yourself to sit with a craving and feel what it is like to have a human body with cravings. Just sit with it and enjoy being in a human body with cravings, because guess what, Brian? By being here on this earth in a human body, you just won the lottery. Do you know how many souls are begging to come into this plane right now? We were given that. And then we do everything trying not to stay here and not to be in our bodies.
I agree. People don't realize that energy, there is no material when it comes to energy. Energy is just energy. And I think that what happened with the raw food community, especially, which is why I don't like the label, because, not only do you have a label to blame it on, but people are replacing. When you're trying to replace something, you'll never find, it's like that YouTube song, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. People are on this journey, in this continual quest to find a thing to do. And when you take that thing away, you're more complete. I'm so complete when I'm empty. When I'm moving.
Yes.
When I have nothing. That's the best. And it's funny because the best things in life are free. Free energy is where it's at. So when you're empty, when people see me at the gym and I'm working out after dry fasts, they don't know how I do it, but I do it. But I'm almost there, Dorit. Right there.
It's a journey. Yeah. And the more you sit with yourself in the present moment, and you don't think about the future, like tomorrow I'm coming off this fast, so tomorrow I can have a papaya. Where can I find the best papaya, the juiciest one in town? If you sit with yourself in the present moment with all the discomfort, and you make friends with the discomfort,
Yes.
you will let go of all cravings, because what you get and what you receive from being in that discomfort zone is the greatest gift you could ever get. And that's an intimate, loving knowledge of self right here on this earth and this moment. Very few people can say they have that.
Oh,
Thank you.
that was actually a powerful point you made. And, I can actually relate to that. Because when I did my first 10-day water fast, I went through hell, but I learned to be with nothing, learn to empty my thoughts of all what I think I need, that I should be eating, that this is dangerous, all the stuff that came up that my mind would tell me. And I learned to just sit with it, feel the uncomfortable emotions, feel, the cravings, feel the messages they came up, and learning just to be with it, but not giving it any meaning. And then what actually happened by sitting with all that stuff, I was able to transmute that and got to the place of experiencing total inner peace by having nothing, needing nothing, not listening to any of those voices. And that's really a powerful place, realizing we don't need so many things. And what our mind tells us is just, as you said, from the past. And it's all comes from a place of, that's what holds us back, from a place of limitation. But when we learn to be with all of it, feel all of it, and not attached to anything, and empty ourselves, that's when we really step in our power. We can let go of all the things we need. So I totally agree with the power is in the present moment, and getting out of the mind, which is always attached to suffering, always telling us, always connected to the past or the future. But our true power is in the present moment, being here right now. And whatever arises is always perfect. That's always the experience we need to have. There's always a lesson in, whatever shows up in the present moment. So
yes. The only power we have is actually in the present moment. That's the only time we're powerful, is when we're in the present moment. It's the only place. Think about it. A rose, there's snow, and you planted that rose bush last year, but you don't know where that bush is anymore. You don't know where the rose is. All of a sudden, one day you wake up and there's that rose. It's like, where have you been all this time? The rose never doubted itself all that time. You might have doubted if it was still there. It stayed with the winter and the cold and everything, and it didn't reject it. It stayed. It knew its own path. It knew it was a rose. It didn't, midway of opening up into a rose, go, oh my gosh, look at that lily over there. I want to be a lily instead. No. I changed my mind. I'm going to be a lily. That would be futile. We do it. It's futile. We do it all the time. I want to be just like her. I want to be like him. I want to be a raw foodist. I want to be a fruitarian. I want to blah, 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 da, da, da. We want too many things. It's the mind. It's the monkey mind just playing games over and over again. Sit with your illness. Sit with the discomfort. Sit with the misery. Sit with the trauma, and activate the power within you. And the only power within you is in the present moment. That's the only time you can access the power.
Yes, I hold to that. And also the rose, the rose doesn't wonder what other flowers think about her. And she doesn't, need someone to step by and admire her. She's just, blossom in her beauty, whether someone comes by or not. And we always look for someone outside to appreciate us or acknowledge us, or just
and what happened if somebody comes and picks her? She dies immediately, because they tried to own her. They pick her, and they try to own her, and so she dies. And this is what we do. We want to own everything. We are taught to be consumers. We did not come here to be consumers. We came here to be portals of a very generous and loving universe. And as portals, the only way we can be powerful is in the present moment. It's that simple. And that is why I tell people who tell me, I tried to be raw, loved it, I had lots of energy, but I couldn't, it didn't work for me. I said, no, you didn't work for you. Food cannot do for you what you will not do for yourself. It never will, and it never has. Yes, Brian?
Oh, I think it's good to have like goals to where we want to be and committed not to the future, but to be it in the present moment, so that you're taking steps. Because when you walk up steps, there's not only one step, there's many steps, but you're continuing walking up it. But it's a series of nows in those steps. So as you're walking up those steps, you're cultivating new energies and new ideas with every step you walk. So I think it's good to have in the mind, because we like to record things, we like to look outside of ourselves, like you said, to other things. You know, they say if you go on a roller coaster and look side to side, you'll get sick. So it's only important to look ahead, but be present in mind, so that when you're climbing, you will achieve, but you won't think about it. I've gotten a lot done in my life because the end in mind. Um, you start with the end in mind or the goal in mind, but you have to stay present. That's the powerful thing you said, is being present. And
I say, set your intention and let go of the rest.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how you get there or the tension. If you set your intention, you let go, guess what? It happens without you.
Yeah.
Just from setting your intention.
Right. Absolutely.
And staying in the present moment. That's all. And so, you know, as we're talking here right now, we have the privilege of being in homes and speaking right now. There's somebody who's being evicted just because, you know, they couldn't muster to get enough money this month to pay their rent. And they'll be saying, oh, you people are just privileged. That's why you can talk this way. In truth, I know of people who have been houseless and homeless, who then left, did not do what others were doing, but left and went out into nature and said that that's when they found themselves, because they were devoid of anything else, and there was no future for them. They didn't see a future. And in their dismal, most frightening self, that they didn't see a future, is where they found themselves in the present moment, by being with the trees and the water and the birds. Because you see, the birds are not sitting around with each other, tweeting about, oh my gosh, tomorrow, what we're going to do tomorrow, what we're going to eat tomorrow, what we're going to do tomorrow. No, they're tweeting their light, joy. They're singing songs. For all they know, tomorrow there might be a storm. It might blow them away. They wouldn't care less. They're just here right now and having the most joyous time being here right now. So I see people bringing these birds inside and putting them in cages and saying how much they love animals. And I think, why would you cage a bird that flies? Because they live in a cage, and that bird is offensive to them that is flying. They want us all to do the same thing, talk the same way, feel the same way, because at the source, they're miserable because that bird reminds them there's another way of being in the world. So we human beings are not here to eat. We human beings are not here to drink. We human beings are not here to use each other or to even be in each other's lives. I have been called antisocial many times, and I've also been called the most social person that anybody knows. So it depends. You see, it has nothing to do with me. It has to do how people feel about themselves. They just project it onto me, because I can't be one or the other. I can't be both, obviously. So it's just a projection of themselves, and it doesn't bother me or what people feel. The only time it ever bothered me was when I was not really entrenched in the present moment, when I slipped out and I forgot who I was, and I started becoming outer oriented and not inner focused. The inner focus will give you everything you've ever needed. You want to be like that gentleman who has been raw for a long time? That's his soul's journey. Brian, that may not be your soul's journey. Maybe your soul's journey is to be a roti eater. Maybe your soul journey is to eat a certain way every now and then, you have a little roti. And just don't label yourself then that way. And by the way, when I was living in Toronto, I ate rotis. in Toronto.
Mhm.
They have incredible rotis
Oh,
in
I've been to
Toronto.
Toronto. Yeah, I've got family there in Montreal, and I love the roti and the Jamaican food up there. So I know how.
So it's not about what we call ourselves or who we aspire to be. We can't is we should we for us to aspire to be anything is forgetting the power of who we are.
Well,
We already are that.
I'm just aspiring to be me.
Yes.
It just so happens that I see someone and I say, "Oh, that's attainable." So, nature adapts in certain ways as well. There's laws of I think it's 1,200 monkeys or 100 monkeys. We do set, like, in Olympics, like when Roger Bannister ran the 4 minute mile, no one's going to say, I'm not going to run under 4 minutes. People adapt, but it's not Roger Bannister that's doing it. It's the person. So I'm not going to say that I'm going to try to be Roger Bannister. I'm trying to be myself, but at a better rate. And I think that it's good to just own it for yourself, because it's all about ownership. It's all about, like you said, letting go. The law of letting go means just being in the present, but things get bigger. And that's what happens when that roti comes. It got really big, and it's there, and I can either toss it aside or I can enjoy. And I've chosen to enjoy, but I don't go out of my way to go for that. If I have this watermelon, which is all I need today, this is all I need. I'm not going to go out of my way for anything else, because this is everything, and I'm not going to eat it all. But it's so amazing how nature has it's symbiotic, but yet it's everything could be its own thing. And I don't think human beings understand that. Human beings want to be, they recycle fashion, they recycle music. I've seen everything just turn to trash and then reformulate because somebody had an influence over it. And then people say, oh, I want to be like that. And then it falls apart again. And then it comes back again, and then it falls. So, rather than chasing any ridiculous cycles, I just stay in my own lane. I'm antisocial too. I don't hang with anybody. I have family that says that I'm antisocial, but when I'm around, I'm fun to be around. And I'm myself. I like to. This is when I cultivate the most, just like being empty. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Brian. And we have like 10 minutes left, so I want to just open up for Millie. Millie, do you have any questions for Dorit or anything you'd like to share? Millie, can you hear me? Yeah, I guess she's not.
Oh, she wrote a message saying she can't really talk right now.
Can talk. Yeah. Oh, I don't see the message for some reason. Okay. Yeah, so we have 10 minutes, 9 minutes left. So if there's any other questions you have, Brian, otherwise I have a question for Dorit.
I'm good. I'm listening.
Just listening. All right. Yeah. So my question, Dorit, what was your biggest breakthrough on this whole journey you just went through? Or what was the biggest lesson? And I know you mentioned present. The goal is in the present, and maybe there's another golden nugget you can share that came up for you.
Dying. I almost died 3 times. Put everything into perspective. My eyesight became so strong just when they thought I was gone. My ears, my sense of hearing became so strong. My sense of smell was just unbelievable. All my senses became so strong, so strong. And I felt myself merging with everything. I no longer existed. Me here talking, when you call my name, I'll answer you. I didn't exist anymore. I was merging. I loved it so much. I wanted to do it. I was just being pulled into it. And my niece, and this was in Canada, begged me, said, begged me, please come back, come back. And I could hear her. And and she was very little at the time. And I listened to her, and I realized I was being pulled into a realm which will always be there waiting for me. I didn't have to go right then and there.
Wow, that's powerful. Yeah.
For me, it was extremely powerful. So I made friends with death, and I'm totally okay. I've had a lot of people die in my family and been killed in terror attacks and whatnot. And At the time, I was a mess, and now I am okay with it, okay with it all. And I look forward to seeing them in different forms because we're just energy, like Brian said. And you said something, Sabina, before about transmuting. Really important. We're just energy beings. We're just energy forms here. And while we're here, we get too attached to being here. And I found, and the thing that I have learned, that if we stay in our biology and we learn our biology and we become our biology, that is the greatest gift we can give ourselves and to each other.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of it. Yeah, and in the end, it's really accepting who we are, and accepting our journey, accepting the moment, accepting that everything that arises is always perfect. I mean, life is our greatest teacher, and every experience is here as a lesson, and every person who triggers us is our teacher, which is very powerful. Instead of looking, if something is negative, there actually are no negative experiences. There are only lessons and only experiences. And every experience is here for us to expand and to grow and to learn from. So at the end, it's all one beautiful journey. There are no bad experiences. When you approach it, life just becomes like an adventure. It becomes like this beautiful journey we all go through.
Yes,
So,
one of the things that I love that I've learned, and I've never been there, is the Shaolin Temple in China. I love the teachings of the Shaolin Temple. I love how the monks must live out their biology. Everything they do is very physical. And that's where they learn to be in the present moment when you're that physical. And I think that we have, all of us, become very tethered to being on the external, the outside of ourselves all the time, looking for the approval, looking for another way of being in the world, when in truth, we've been given everything we need already. We just haven't gone to the place where it exists, which is internally. And we've been given all the gifts we need. We just need to go within and unearth it and live it out. And when you do that, there's no fear of death. The death is in the future and it was also in the past, but in the present moment, it does not exist. And we must, all of us must transform and transcend this energy and go back into a world beyond this very dense plane on which we live. And to do that with joy and to do that with tremendous love is what we've been asked to do. And we fight it and we resist it and we say, I'm going to eat and become raw vegan. And then that's not enough. Now I'm going to become fruitarian because we're terrified of dying or being ill. And yet it's an illness where I found myself in the depth of illness and dying.
wow, that's a powerful ending right here. So I'd like to complete our call. And so that was really deep conversation. We went from raw foods to dying.
It's the same.
We covered every aspect of life and presence and Shaolin temples. Wow. Thank you so much, Dorit, for sharing your wisdom, your gift, your beauty, your power. Thank you, Brian, for being engaged. I know you're always such a contribution. Every call you show up, you're always bringing your unique twist to everything and your gift. Your voice is always so appreciated. Your voice is so powerful. And by the way, you look amazing at 51. I thought you're in your 30s.
Thank you.
So congratulations to ageless living.
Yeah, this is where it's at.
Keep that youthful. I believe that's the spirit, keeping a youthful spirit, being playful, taking life easy instead of being too serious. That actually ages us really fast.
Oh,
being
man.
serious.
Just like the holidays, like Dorit said, the holidays
Exactly.
and the birthdays.
Here to tap into our youthful, playful spirit and enjoy every moment of life that keeps us youthful and vibrant and radiant. So thank you so much, Dorit. So much love.
Thank you, Dorit.
Thank you, Millie, for being here. And yes, until
And thank you, Sabine.
soon, sending so much love to all of you. Okay, bye.
Bye. Namaste.